All right, so today's lesson is another nonfiction lesson, and it's kind of a shorter one, but I want you to think about this for nonfiction as well. When we're reading nonfiction, we know that it's a little bit trickier than reading fiction. So when we read fiction, it's a story, and we kind of know how stories go. We know that we get introduced to the setting and the character. We know we have the plot. It starts to go up. The plot line does. We get to the climax. It comes down. We get the resolving action, and then it ends, right? And we generally know how stories go. We know that there's going to be a problem. We know there's going to be a solution. We can kind of figure out things that are going to happen. Sometimes we have those big plot twists, right? And as your books are getting trickier, there's more and more of those. But you generally have an idea of how stories go. You've been reading stories for a long, long time. Fiction is a little bit different. So we read it differently. We don't always read it right from cover to cover, from the beginning to the end. And it's usually giving us information. So we read it differently. We don't read it to be entertained. We read it to learn something, to get information. So we have to kind of think about our books differently than we think about fiction books. So we kind of have to do a couple different things. So here's what I want you to think about. We have to, before we start reading a nonfiction book, we have to prepare our brain for some new information. We have to say to ourselves, all right, guy, brain up there, we're going to be learning something. We're not just here to be entertained. We can't just kind of take it easy and let the story unfold. We have to really be concentrating and thinking, because we're about to learn something new. We're about to get some information that we didn't have before. And if we want to learn, we have to remember it. We have to really kind of soak it in there. Okay, so here's how we're going to do that. If we're going to get that information, we're either going to do some jotting about it, or we want to do some talking about it. So we're either going to jot or we're going to say. So this is before we even start reading. Before we even start reading, we're preparing, we're getting ready. So we want to do this. We want to think about, we either want to jot about or talk about, what do we already know for sure about that topic. So if you're reading about sea otters, or you're reading about volcanoes, or you're reading about crocodiles, or the Eiffel Tower, or whatever your subject is, you think about what you already know about that for sure. Now, what you may have heard, but what do you solidly know for sure? What facts do you already have? Maybe it's the kind of thing that brought you to that book. Maybe you have some knowledge about it. Maybe you've been to a certain place, a city, and you're now reading about it. Maybe you have some background knowledge, something that somebody told you that made you interested in reading about that. But what do you know for sure? Maybe jot it down, or maybe talk with somebody about it, or at least think really hard about it. What do you already know about that topic? That will help your brain get ready to learn the new stuff, the stuff you don't already know. And then you want to think about, what do you think that you know? What are the things that you think you know? Maybe you're not 100% sure, but well, I've heard this. I think this is true. I'm not sure. I might have to read a little bit to confirm it, to make sure. But these are the things that I think that I know about this topic. So the things you know for sure, the things that you think that you know. And then just as important as those two is this one. What do you wonder? What do you wonder about that topic? What brought you to that topic? What are you thinking about? What do you want to know? Because if you're reading that book for new information, you must want to know something about it. What's intriguing about that topic? What do you want to know about crocodiles? What do you want to know about the Eiffel Tower? Right? What do you want to know about extreme weather? So what do you already know for sure, for sure, for sure? What do you think you probably know? I think that's right, but I might be a little off. And what don't you know, but you really wonder about? You want to find out. Once you've had these thoughts in your head, instead of just picking the book up and starting reading, once you have these thoughts, your brain is going to be ready for that new information. And you're going to be really ready to absorb it. Because as you're reading along and you come to one of these things, you're going to go, yep, there it is. I knew that. And when you come to one of these, you're either going to go, yeah, I thought so. I am right. Or, ooh, I thought that, but I wasn't right. I'm glad I read this. And for this one, you're going to go, ah, wow, that's cool about something that you didn't know for sure. All right, so all ways of getting your brain ready for that new information of nonfiction. All right, okay, we're going to turn around. We're going to do a little more with our verb and subject agreements for IXL. I'm going to show you one last thing for today. All right, we're going to be talking about pronouns. Now remember, pronouns are words that we use in place of nouns, things like we, he, she, they, instead of using a person's name. So I get you turned around and slid right down here. We're going to do some practice with some cards, and then I'll show you the IXL. Ooh, I almost dropped you. Try that again. Okay, so these are pronoun verb agreements. Let me get in front of the camera there. Okay, so this is when you have a pronoun, something like they. So instead of saying two people's names, sometimes we use the word they, but we still have to make sure that it agrees. So they is plural. They blank the classroom every day. They cleans the classroom every day. They clean the classroom every day. Plural. We're not going to say they cleans. We're going to say they clean. All right, see how instead of having names, I have a pronoun there? All right, take a look at this one. Something like this pronoun. She blank the ball to Thomas. So instead of a person's name, we have the pronoun she. She throw the ball. She throws the ball. So you notice when this one is singular, the verb almost always has that S at the end. She throws. That's what you're looking for. All right, so look at this one. This time, instead of the pronoun being there, the pronoun is down here. So, blank brings the cake for the birthday party. She bring the cake. You bring the cake. She bring the cake for the birthday party. Does that make sense? You bring the cake. That would make sense. If it was she, it would say she brings the cake. All right, let's try one more like that. Blank fixes cars for a living. I fixes cars. He fixes cars. He fixes cars. That one makes more sense. All right, you're going to do the same thing on IXL today. So our IXL skill today is LL3. I'll show it to you real quick. Okay, so here's LL3. It's going to be the same thing I just showed you. Blank toast the bread outdoors over the campfire. They toast the bread. She toast the bread. Which one sounds better? They toast the bread. It's going to put it in the little square there, so or the little blank, so you can see. It would say she toasts if it was going to be that one. And then down here you hit the submit bar and you get your answer. They blank an explanation. They demands an explanation, or they demand an explanation. They is plural. We're going with this one without the S. Submit, and there we go. So that's your IXL for today. All right, there we go. All right, I hope you have a great weekend and happy Friday, and I will see you all back on Monday.